What is education, and why is education important? Is it important? After all, what's the real purpose of getting educated about anything? We so frequently take education and the process for learning in general totally for granted. Not only that, but the ways in which we think. How we've gone about structuring our own consciousness itself has largely remained unchanged for a long, long time. So how do we literally change our minds? Can we reconfigure our own ways of thinking? And if so, how? Join Dr. Joseph Atman, the founder of one of the world's most revolutionary educational centers, Middletree, and award-winning broadcaster Tammy Trujillo for Educate Everyone and explore the mysteries of our own consciousness and the education we implement in order for it to be what it is.
Well, this week on Educate Everyone, we're kind of going back in time a little bit. We have a young lady, very accomplished young lady, who actually was a Middletree student quite some time ago, Joe. So this is really exciting. And I know you remember her back when she was quite young. Jackie Duarte is our guest today.
Hi, Tammy. And
hi,
Joe.
Jackie. It's so cool to have you back.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you again for taking the time and reconnecting with us. Very excited.
Well, it's really neat to go back in the history of a company and talk to, I won't say customers, students, in this case, students who came years ago especially when, the program Middletree was relatively new, and learn about what their experiences are, but better, and this is going to be the really exciting part today, to see what that person has done with what they gained. And you have done so much, and you're about to step into a brand new chapter of your life. Well, we're all going to be rooting for you. So
thank you.
Yeah. So, Joe, you remember Jackie way back when?
Quite well, obviously. Her and her sister Bella were, as you mentioned, kind of some of our initial students. They come from good stock also, I think you could say. Her parents are wonderful folks also. And, I have a special place kind of in my heart for those who supported us early on. And the Duartes were some of our staunchest supporters in those early days. That's never going to be forgotten on this end. So,
Jackie, tell us a little bit about what you remember. You and your sister came. How old were you about?
I believe the beginning of this was in middle school.
Okay.
For me, yes.
So maybe like 10-ish?
That tracks, yeah.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah, you were older. Probably Bella was probably 10, maybe.
Middle school, yeah.
Yeah.
How did it all start? How did Middletree and the Duarte family, how did you all connect?
It was through our friend, actually, who lived a little bit closer out towards Claremont, and she had recommended this program. We didn't know anything about it. We just knew my mom wanted to help us get a little bit ahead preparing for the upcoming school year. So we started with the summer program with Middletree. That was weekly meetings, just different enrichment activities to help us grow as students, as people, and just making friends as well. I still am in contact with one of the guys there. So,
wow.
Yeah, which is so funny to think back. We were just kids and now growing up, doing our own thing, and still have brief contact with multiple people there.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the fun things as you do get older and you have your high school reunions, which you're way far away from having one yet, but it is fun to see how people turned out, what they did, what they accomplished, who they became. Were you and your sister, did you guys like school? Were you good students at that time?
Yeah, I say I've typically always enjoyed school. I wasn't necessarily there for the social aspect of some kids would say. I had my small friend group. I kept my circle small, but I just enjoyed learning and growing. And I mean, there were times, of course, where I was dreading different subjects, I guess in math specifically, and just chemistry, I know, was always giving me a hard time. That I remember going through Middletree for tutoring in high school, coming back then and there. But I would say I've always liked it. And coming to college, there's an even greater appreciation for education, especially when it's now become my decision to pursue it at a higher level and just see where it can take me, what I use it for. And also as a way to represent my family as well.
Joe, Middletree was about how old when Jackie and her sister were students?
They're brand new. They were some of our very, very first students, kind of as I mentioned. I think I could rattle off every person in that first crop of folks. Duartes were with us that first summer. I mean, we started at Pomona College, like on the campus there. We rented 2 classrooms in Carnegie Hall. We just kind of had this, I don't know, I think it was like 6 or 7 week program, and it started like absurdly early in the morning.
I do remember that.
It was literally like at like 7 o'clock.
Oh,
yeah. Well, I think it was we were trying to get parents, or like allow parents to go to work and
right
off early, and we were there till 6 something. Students weren't there the whole time necessarily. They were there that first summer, and then they were one of the few who like followed us into our first office there, kind of right down the road in Claremont. And yeah, I mean, they were with us for, I don't know, a couple of years, kind of on and off. I'll kind of always remember that first crop. I've got a great picture of a bunch of us. Savannah also like in her like knee-high socks. Who Savannah's the friend that Jackie I think is talking about. With all of us like hanging out on a tree. I'll try and dig that up and share it with everybody online. I know we have it somewhere.
That would be really cool. Starting out as a summer program, what were your goals with that summer program, Joe, starting out?
I think kind of when you start any venture, you have all these goals, these things that you think it's going to be, and frequently it turns out to be none of those things. And I was just about to graduate with my doctorate degree, and it was in a totally different field. I had no experience running a business, for one. The other thing was I had no experience like working with students at that time. And I had started it with a friend of mine who was a teacher who was great. He had not run a business per se, but he was a true blue educator, Brandon X, a good friend of mine at the time. And he was just amazing in kind of helping it get off the ground. And our initial idea was to just sort of run a program that allowed people to access an education over the summer, regardless of their capacity to pay for it, and just allow people brush up academically wherever they needed, and again, regardless of their financial situation. And we had kind of different ideas about things that sort of went out the window because this was all so brand new. We had kind of split students up. You probably remember this, Jackie, into like older students and younger students. And the older students were doing, rigorous academic stuff. The younger students, who generally were with me at least half the day, we kind of had like an open-ended sort of like project-based kind of learning that kind of changed throughout the program. We wound up making like this kind of book tree. Like everybody picked their favorite books. We talked about them, and we kind of wrote about them, and then we created like this physical tree out of a book. We put a couple of them, I think, together and put them around town. So this idea that sort of a project that's supposed to, like a learning project, hands-on learning by doing, that's supposed to culminate in this group effort. And that's kind of what we did. And we've sort of parlayed that into what our summer program, or at least one component of it, is now. So that was sort of the rough idea at first. But to be honest with you, I was just kind of making it up as we went along, at least with the little ones. Just because I had so little experience, so little knowledge about how to do any of this. And it was nothing like I thought it was going to be.
Things rarely are. So, I've learned.
Yeah, of course. But especially when you have no idea, number one, how to, again, run a business. And I'm just starting this whole thing. I wasn't intending to keep it going also, by the way. I was just going to do this until, I landed a teaching gig at a college somewhere, because that was the only thing I knew how to do at the time. So I wasn't really intending on keeping this going for any length of time. And we just thought, we could do this program in the time that I had between, when Harvard came inevitably calling and me just kind of fledgling about, just sort of waiting for that call, or waiting to pick up that part of my career that I had been trained for so long. And then so ironically, here we are 10 years later. If Harvard has called, I've been too busy to take it, because Middletree has kind of consumed all my time. So,
Jackie, what do you remember about that very first summer?
Yeah, it's so funny that he mentions the picture on the tree. That's such a vivid memory for me. I don't know why, but I know exactly what picture you're talking about.
Yeah.
I remember we'd go visit the garden out on the campus as well. And I totally remember the book tree. I think we had placed it in little shops throughout the Claremont Village as well, eventually.
We did, and then they got destroyed, and then we put it back. I put it back, or like did it, and then they got destroyed like the next night by like drunken college kids. So yeah, but it was a good effort. Like, and we were all proud of that little creation. So.
Yeah, I do remember the early mornings as well, driving out there, because we had a bit of a drive coming from where we were out to Pomona, Claremont area. But I remember never not wanting to go. I was always excited, and I don't know, as a kid taking summer classes, as you can call it, not every kid may be excited for that. I mean, growing up, I was a kid wanting to be outside in the pool, running, riding my bike. So to say I'd have to wake up at 6:30 in the morning and go to school when everyone's enjoying their summer, I surprisingly was excited about it. And I think that just goes to show the individualism that Middletree had. And I mean, Dr. Joe, like you were saying, you kind of came up with stuff on the fly. And as a kid, we didn't know that. We were just going along with whatever had been planned for the day and had a blast learning whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad I was able to fool you guys. I had no idea what I was doing, and I cannot emphasize that enough. But I think maybe it also goes to show like that we had good intentions. We had a good heart about it. You guys bought into it. And then I kind of bought into you guys buying into it, sort of. And this sort of, synergy kind of happened, I think. And then I just grew to love it, right? I just grew to really enjoy it. Was exhausting. And also, I'm not a morning person by any stretch of the imagination. So to be up at that time and like, not to just be up, but to be like on, right? Because when you're working with students, you got to be on, especially that age. But, and again, like shortly into it, I thought to myself, I think that we could really do something here. And then my juices started flowing, and I thought, gosh, if we can give everybody access to education, why can't we then, as Jackie mentioned, sort of really, really focus on really personalizing it all? And then why can't we give students sort of whatever they need in order to accomplish what their goals are? And what does that look like? And so then I started thinking about all these things, and that was all spawned from the positive experience that I had that summer. Now, if I had had like terrible students, if Jackie and her cohort were just like the worst, I may have had I might be in a totally different space right now. I might be at Harvard and miserable. I don't know. But I had a great experience, and it was part of those students. And I always remind people that as educators, you have more of an impact on students than you know and realize. Mm-hmm. But looking back on it, the students had more of an impact on me than I knew or realized at that point.
Well, I don't believe anything happens by accident. I think everything is fated to happen. So I think that kind of proves it out, because you've come a long way with Middletree. So, Jackie, you do that summer. The summer is good. And then you head back to school. Now, you continue with Middletree. Tell us what you were doing at that point.
I'm trying to trace back the grade, but I do remember going back for the tutoring program at some point in high school. I was having trouble with chemistry, and obviously the teacher would offer help at lunchtime or after school, but then there'd be multiple students coming in all asking for different needs. And it was just really hard to get that individual aspect, to get the help that I needed. And with my schedule of athletics back in high school, I didn't have the time to be necessarily waiting around for my turn to come to ask these questions. I needed more one-on-one time. So being able to go to Middletree, that had helped a lot. And I had that one-on-one time. I also learned different ways I was taught in school how to do this chemistry homework, which for me, I absorbed it a lot better than how my teacher had taught it originally. So that also goes to show just understanding the students, how they best learn, how we're best going to absorb the material. And that was big for me, because I feel like, as for myself, I sometimes change the way that things are taught to me so I can better understand it.
Mm-hmm. That makes good sense. So, Joe, that was something over the course of the time that you and I have known each other. That's been a real focus with you, is I've heard it said in this manner, meeting students where they are.
Absolutely. I think it's something that we don't, within the education system focus on nearly enough, because we're trying to kind of, teach to so many students all at once that we don't have the time, energy, or resources to really be able to meet students where they're at, even if where they're at is very reachable. That the way we've sort of set up the system, and this is not a critique of any, you'll hear me say this over and over again, I'm sure, throughout the course of this podcast, and I already have. It's not the critique of any one individual or any one subset of folks. It's not teachers' fault. It's not principal's fault. It's not superintendent's fault. It's the whole system that we've sort of set up. So again, we kind of thought, couldn't we do education in a very different way? And that's what Middle Tree is. It's all about meeting students where they're at. It's all about personalizing it. It's all about making sure that students get whatever attention that they need and then whatever time that they need in order to get that attention and have that stuff soak in. That's what we're all about. And again, we kind of realized that early on, and that I saw, even though I didn't know what the heck I was doing that first summer, that really kind of resonated with people. And because it resonated with people, that kind of got us really going. Right. Mm-hmm. That showed me that I was able to allow people to do what they needed to do in the way that they needed to do it. And that worked, and I could make that work.
Mm-hmm. So you started with tutoring in chemistry. Did you get tutoring in any other subjects, Jackie, that you were having a little trouble with? Because trust me, math and chemistry, forget about it for me. I'm right there with you.
I have always loved writing, and I do remember bringing in essays for proofreading because, growing up, it was funny. I didn't necessarily love reading, but I always loved writing. And I think my thoughts moved quicker than my hands could keep up. And so I think just going over little grammar lessons were helpful. And it wasn't necessarily that I struggled in it, but I was learning more from Middle Tree and just learning different styles of writing, how to better come across in argumentative essays and various essays of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
But to be fair, and I'm be totally transparent here, like, it's not like we had this great writing program or anything. Right? And so, but I say that to make the point that we didn't have to have a program. All we had to do was allow Jackie the freedom and space to explore who she was as a writer and who she was as a student, as a human being. And when we were able to do that, then she kind of found her own level, found her own path, and then was able to, from what I'm hearing, take that and do something with it. So I think when you allow students to be who they are, and with guidance, right, it takes guidance, allow them to kind of tread that path for themselves, then great things can happen.
Mm-hmm. It seems like, too, Jackie, some of the things that you learned with the tutoring in chemistry, with the proofreading and checking in on the writing, were you able to apply some of those things to some of the other subjects in terms of just the way you learned?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like everything, transferable skills for sure. And I mean, especially seeing that in college now, no matter what class you take, you have to be a good writer. And if you don't like it, college is going to be very hard for you. So definitely taking those skills from class to class. And I mean, I think it led me to my major as well with my passion for storytelling. So I would definitely say so. Those skills are very transferable.
Here's an interesting thing. And Tammy, you teach college. I've taught at the college level. Students, and Jackie, you just said it, like, there are so many students who don't know how to write. It's fundamental to academics in general. It's fundamental to how we go about educating ourselves. This whole reading comprehension, writing, basic mathematics, right? Those are kind of the foundational things. And it's mind-boggling how few students actually do know how to write. I think that's not such a critique on students themselves and individuals, but how we go about the process of teaching people. And again, I think, Dan, Tammy, you can, I think, back me up on this, is that we have, I would say the majority of students when they enter college are not proficient writers.
I'll agree with you.
That's putting it kindly, I think.
And I agree with that as well. And the one thing that I've noticed, and this drives me out of my mind, is students that I encounter, a good majority of them, do not know how to write differently for different occasions. Example would be, I get emails from students that I talk to in class all the time. You know, I have a pretty friendly relationship with my students. We're pretty one-on-one. But I get these emails that are so, what do I want to say? They sound like a term paper. They're very straight. They're very strict. They're very to the point. And it's like, hello, have we met? Early on when this trend started, and I'd say maybe like 5 years is how long I've noticed it, I thought, are you really talking to me like that? Because this is just very demanding and very just to the point. And I was quite taken aback early on until I realized this seems to be a trend now. Students need to understand, we all need to understand, how to write differently in different situations. That's one of my pet peeves right now, and I was pondering it last night when I was grading some assignments, and checking through emails for my students. I thought, I don't know how we're going to address this, but we're going to have to find a way. Because if I was your boss and you sent me that email, I'd be like, excuse me, let's reevaluate our relationship here real quick, because it was just so weird. So, Jackie, write nice emails, write like you talk. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
I have a feeling you would be the one doing that.
Oh, I love exploring different forms of writing. I have taken a screenwriting class this semester, and that was a whole new style. It challenged me in the greatest way possible, but I had always written with more words, and this situation was less is more white space, and that was just the craziest thing to me. So yeah, definitely learning different ways of writing when it's applicable.
Well, let's get into your college career, because what high school did you go to?
I went to Chino Hills High School.
Okay, so you graduate Chino Hills and you land at USC. That's pretty darn good work.
Thank you.
What are you majoring in? Tell us about the college experience.
Yeah, so I had just gone to a public high school, big public high school, and thankfully through athletics, I was able to land a scholarship at USC. And a lot of the stigma around USC athletes is that, oh, they have a low GPA, they're just getting in through athletics, but there are standards we do have to hit. You can't just be let into the school because they know those students wouldn't be able to excel at USC, and it'd bring down the overall school's GPA, the team GPA. So things of that sort. But currently at USC, I'm studying communication, minoring in cinematic arts. And I chose that major, quite frankly, because all I wanted was to become a professional athlete. And growing up, that was what I had my mind set on. So I didn't necessarily have career goals as a child growing up. It was to be a professional athlete. And once you get to college, you learn that maybe 1% of those college athletes are going to go professional. And even if they do, they'll have to enter the real world of work eventually, especially for females in sports. So just delving into my passions, I learned I love storytelling. I love multimedia storytelling through digital media. And that's where I've found myself to excel. Just learning graphic design, learning how to video edit, and how to be a storyteller for those who maybe aren't so well at telling their own stories. I want to be a voice for those that want to speak their words, want to tell their story, but maybe need a little bit more assistance in it. So by merging my passions of video, media, journalism, I picked up my minor in cinematic arts to learn different forms of storytelling through film. And currently I am a senior getting ready to graduate. I've decided to pursue my master's at USC for 2 more years, actually. So I'll be studying public relations and advertising, continuing my education journey, just because I love learning here. I love my school. I'm so grateful and thankful for all the experiences I've had, and have had the best time that I'm willing to stick around for 2 more years to learn more.
You've got to tell us, what's your sport?
I run cross country and track.
Okay. Wow. All right. So you're balancing an awful lot of things.
It is. And there is a sacrifice for sleep on certain days, but I think it'll all be worth it in the end, because everything I do, I love to do it, and I want to put my best foot forward in everything.
Joe, we both went through college and went through masters, and you've gone even further than that to doctorates and all of that. What do you think of Jackie's success through college? Because she's done well. She's just got her finger in everything. And Jackie, you've won awards, and you're in organizations and all of those things as well at school. So you are splitting yourself in as many different directions as you possibly can. But Joe, what do you think?
Well, it's amazing. I can't believe, first of all, that Middle Tree's been around for as long as it's 10 years old now. And again, Jackie being literally one of our very, very first students. It's really gratifying. I mean, I think it's amazing that anybody has the motivation and has such direction that Jackie does. But again, like I said, she comes from good stock. But still, like, a lot of people come from good stock. I think it's a lot easier to make different decisions, and even more common to just not have a direction at all, which is fine, right? But so I'm always impressed by people who seem to know exactly what they want to do, or at least be pulled in a certain way, and then kind of find exactly what it is that they want to do just because of that gravity. But for me, I mean, I just keep thinking, and it's kind of a selfish thing, like, gosh, I can't believe that, one of our students is going to go into a master's program at it. It's kind of crazy.
Jackie, as you were growing up, like you said, you started out going to a summer program. Your parents said, hey, this is going to be a good idea for our girls to go. And then you went for your tutoring. It sounds like you were kind of above and beyond. You were pretty darn determined pretty early on to become not just a good student, but to have some kind of future. And again, you were focusing on professional sports as your future, but you weren't ignoring your educational side either. Middle Tree jumping in and kind of filling in some gaps for you. How do you think that's helped you at SC?
Oh, it definitely helped big time. I remember actually also going there for brief SAT prep as well, because I know now that system's changed a little bit with COVID, but there was quite some panic prepping for this test because I knew it had meant so much for college and I wanted to be best prepared that I could be. So I'd say Middle Tree, if anything, helped me, of course, with the educational aspect, but also with wanting to give back. I think that was expressed through my parents, like the mission of Middle Tree and how grateful we were for that program. And similar to what Dr. Joe has been saying, I'm super, super thankful for both of my parents. And that has been a huge drive in my education because I am first gen in my family. I feel like there was a lot of weight going into what I'm going to pursue, but at the same time, there's a pride and representation to it that just makes me proud and want to continue doing more to make my parents proud because they provided me with everything I've needed to succeed.
I want to talk about some of your extracurricular outside of the sports, but you've been involved in a lot of organizations. Tell us a little about that because, again, you're attacking this on all fronts, which I find really impressive because I know how much time sports can take as a collegiate athlete, and you've got to keep your grades up. And you've got a minor, not just a major, but you've got a minor going on. But tell us about some of these other things you've gotten yourself involved in.
Yeah, I'd say right now, one of the biggest things that takes up a lot of my time, I'm involved in Church and Athletics Senate, where we're basically the liaison between student athletes and faculty at USC. And actually, we're supposed to meet with the Board of Trustees within 2 weeks to have a discussion about the new president at USC. So It is a big role. I do hold an executive position, and my main position is for community service. So I help create initiatives for student athletes on how we can best give back to the community. But it's about 20 to 30 athletes. We have 600 athletes at USC, so it is a small group. We do take on a lot of responsibility. But it's something I wanted to be involved in. It's a place I wanted my voice to be heard and also to leave an impact on USC athletics. So that's something that definitely takes up a lot of my time. And this past year, me and my teammates, there's 5 of us, we launched a chapter to Run Your City, Los Angeles, where it's a worldwide organization. It wasn't in Los Angeles yet, but it's free running camps and free races for kids K through 8. And someone had reached out to us asking if we wanted to launch a chapter in Los Angeles. And we said, of course, why not? Why wouldn't we? So last semester, we met once a week. So it wasn't too big of a commitment. It was more of the planning and fundraising that was a new challenge for us because none of us had done that before, starting from ground zero. And we did have, a layout to follow, but reaching out to people in the LA community was hard. There was a language barrier we had to overcome. There was transportation needs that students needed. So just being able to give back to young students was big, and for them to experience communication between a student athlete, I think was huge. And I've found so much joy in giving back to the community. And I think growing up where I did, we were fortunate enough, it was a great community, but community aspect was a huge thing. And being able to give back, I think, has definitely been carried on with me at USC, at such a prestigious school where there's a lot of people with lots of money here. And I'm just trying to figure out different ways where we don't idolize that money and be able to use it for good.
Well, see, you have something in common with Joe. You got into something you didn't quite know how you were going to do it. You just figured it out as you went. And yes. Joe, I know some of the things in my life that I've tackled and I've gone, what am I doing? What business do I have even trying this? It just turns out because you had a passion with Middle Tree. Jackie, you had a passion with this event that you're putting together. Your passion is there. You have passion. I love the fact you let your passion show. That's something I'm always telling my students. Let the passion show. You don't have to be stoic and mature and adult and serious. No, let the passion show because the passion becomes infectious. And that sounds like what happened during that summer at Middle Tree, Joe. Your passion, the kids picked up on it. They sent it back to you. Jackie, your passion, you've got the wheels in motion on a big movement here. It works. It works. You just have to sometimes just say, I'm doing it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I want it to end up being. And you jump in. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can't be scared.
And that's kind of the part of education that I think kind of gets lost. Education isn't just about knowledge. It's about discovery of, again, your, like you said, your passion. It's about a discovery of who you are and how you can translate that passion into something that serves others, not only yourself. And it's about discovering what that process is, what all that entails. You know, I didn't know that I had a passion for doing this until I did it. You know, Jackie was obviously able to kind of find how she could find her voice, or, you know, at least start to get into writing and some of these other things that, you know, she's now doing. And maybe there was a spark of that early on that we, in some small way, kind of helped her to do. So that's a big part of what education really should be about. And it's something that I think we don't focus all that much on as a whole.
But if we do, magic happens.
That's right.
And we've got to start recognizing that.
And educators, you are kind of, maybe not magic makers, but magic enablers, because that magic is really kind of brewed by students. But it's a chemistry that happens when, again, you allow students to be who they are.
Now, Jackie, you're about to graduate. Not very much longer. You'll be graduating with your degree, but you're going to stay, get your master's. Good plan. It's hard to go back. What's the ultimate career goal once you finish it? What do you see?
I've been juggling with this one lately. I feel like that's a big topic of conversation as to what's next. And right now I'm like, oh, I have grad school, but people are like, okay, what's after that? And I think my ultimate dream was storytelling. And as I've discovered at USC, is getting into filmmaking, which is a bit of a tricky industry. I know it's not the greatest, and a lot of people tell me to shy away from it, but I would love to tell stories of underdog athletes and do something that I really love to do. So through that, I'd love to be a marketing line producer. Lots of producing is a lot of research, and I'm the type of person that actually doesn't mind sitting on my laptop in an office all day, getting the task done. I feel like I can get in the zone and be able to do that. So whether it's sports or filmmaking, if I can merge those two worlds and honestly even maybe create a career that isn't out there yet, that would be great.
I love that idea. Yeah. Mix it up. Make your own space.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. What advice do you have for somebody who may be in high school right now and, you know, they're hitting some subjects that may be challenging, like math and chemistry, and they're wondering, should I go to college? Shouldn't I? Do I have to? Do I need to? What would you tell that student based on your own experience?
I mean, college has absolutely changed my life. Like I said, I was first generation in my family, and it was expected of me to go to college. There wasn't any question about it. But to that student maybe struggling with the decision to go to college, I think ultimately growing as a person in college is huge. The educational aspect is great, but I have grown so much through using my resources, learning how to network, building connections with professors, with students, with various different educators and admins. And I think overall, having that ability to grow as a person in college is so different. You're on your own. You have to be independent. You have to figure things out for the first time. And it's a big leap of faith for sure, getting into a new environment. But I think you can't let fear get the best of you, and ultimately not giving up. That's as cliche as it is. I love cliche sayings because they're true. I take big pride in not giving up and just being able to push through adversity, because ultimately you're going to learn from that adversity, whatever it may be. There's always a lesson to take away and make that lesson applicable to whatever challenge you may encounter in the future.
Joe, you work with so many students, and you have over the years, and Jackie's got to be one of the big success stories. Can't wait, Jackie, in about 5 years to see what you're up to. I'm really looking forward to that. Joe, what would you tell somebody who's in high school right now and facing those same choices, dilemmas, worries, fears, what have you?
You have to do what you think is best for you. Don't do something because you think it's expected of you. Don't do something because you think that it's what you should do or have to do or obligated to do. You only get one chance to be young in this life, right? School isn't for everybody. There's an education out there regardless of what path you take. You have to follow your passion. You have to fall in love with your life. And you're not going to do that if you're living someone else's story. If you're doing things that, again, are expected of you, you're doing something because you think that, well, that's just what I have to do, or something that other people have done before, and so that you have something to prove. No one's keeping score at the end of the day or end of your life, right? So, and there's also plenty of time. Everybody says, time moves so quickly, but there's a lot that happens within that space, no matter how fast it might move. You just said, Tammy, like, you went back to school after decades. I would say, in my master's program and in my doctorate programs, I would say half of those folks were middle age or older. So there's always time to go back, and not only to your education, but to your passion. But why not follow it as early and as often as you can?
I tell my students all the time, it's not a race. It doesn't matter if you're taking 5 years to finish college or 6 to get your BA. It doesn't matter. It's not a race. And the passion, I want to scream that from the highest mountain, is find that passion and then make it happen. And Jackie, you sound like the kind of young lady who's going to make it happen one way or the other.
Yeah, that is all fueled by passion. Absolutely. And like Dr. Joe said, doing what you love. I think, especially with filmmaking, like I said, a lot of people have told me don't go into this career, but I would rather go into a career that makes less money, but be happy about it and do something that I love.
Yep. You've got to give it a try. I think one of the worst things that can happen in life is the what ifs. We've all got them. We all have them. But at the end of the road, 30, 40 years down the road, if you haven't tried that passion, you're always going to be going, what if I had? And imagining and regretting. I think it's okay to try something and maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe you have to make a left turn, right turn, or maybe it's a U-turn. But at least you gave it your best shot. And I think then you can move on. Now, I don't think you're going to make any turns at all. I think you're going straight ahead, right to the goal. But the what ifs, and Joe, you've got what ifs. I think we all have what ifs. And boy, they can nag the crap out of you, can't they?
Yeah, it's part of being a human being, We don't have it all figured out.
But again, that's part of the process of that discovery that we're talking about. And that discovery never ends. So I think you have to give yourself some grace, be patient with yourself, and allow yourself some time to make some mistakes, to screw some things up, and to learn from all of that.
Well, Jackie, you have done an awful lot in a very short time. And again, like I said, I am really looking forward to following you and seeing how you put the pieces together. I have a feeling you're going to do just fine. So, Jackie, thanks for joining us on Educate Everyone. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. So happy to share my story and reminisce on the great days at Middle Tree.
Jackie Duarte, our guest. She is a senior right now at USC, just about to graduate. She's going on and getting that master's degree, and then watch out.
Thank you for listening to Educate Everyone with Dr. Joseph Atman and Tammy Trujillo. Join us each week as we explore the inner workings of our own minds and the educational system which builds and supports it. Also, check out our website at middletree.org to see what opportunities Middle Tree's programs can offer you or your student. And join us on social media. If you have any questions you'd like Dr. Atman to answer, please leave them on a post or send us a message, and you may hear them answered on the next episode of Educate Everyone. Until then, thanks for tuning in.